Welcome to Order Militaris Radio TV. And today's topic is going to be a little different. We have to play within the rules of YouTube on this show. With all the craziness going on, and with the record number of gun sales throughout the U.S. due to the riots going on, and we thought it would be a good time to talk about this topic carefully. Now, we cannot show you any items. We're going to tell you how they work. We can give an opinion on why to have them and why they are necessary. But we'll try to stay within the rules on even sharing the history, which they don't want even to talk about, even though it's a pretty interesting history how it came to be through the Chinese and documented by the great Venetian traveler Marco Polo. So we welcome Brother Alexis to the show.
Thank you, AJ, for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be on Order Militaris Radio TV. And you know, in the 4 years of our association, Order Militaris Catholicus, people have always asked us, why don't you instruct people on the use of guns? And we've stayed away from this topic because, well, we just got hordes of persecution even without opening this topic. So it's a very sensitive topic, and nothing we say here represents the association, the Montana Corporation Order Militaris. I am not speaking here in my capacity as president, or of the radio station. We're just going to talk about my personal views, AJ's personal views, and how and why one should own a gun and how to go about it if you've never owned one, okay? And this is based on the fact that your natural right, you have a natural right to self-defense, and you can use that right to employ an instrument in that self-defense. So that's what we're going to talk about. And AJ's been a gun owner for many of years, I should say almost whole life.
Yeah.
So he's going to guide us through it. So let's start first. The once upon a time, there wasn't a gun. So how did guns come into being, and what's that whole history?
In China, the earliest known firearm was called the fire lance. They first created what would be called gunpowder in about, and so the earliest known depiction of their firearm was an illustration of a fire lance on a mid-10th century silk banner from Dun Wang, and in the Dian Shuxing Lu's account on the siege of Dian in 1132 during the Jin Song Wars, records that the Song forces used these fire lances against the Jurchen. So they first create the gunpowder in the 9th century. Then about the 10th century, they figure out how to make the firearm. And it goes from China to the Middle East to about comes into the Middle East in the late 13th and early 14th century. Then around the 15th century, things start to become a little more modernized. We start to see the handheld firearms. And around that time, you start to see the early versions of the rifle or the musket. And these were a lot different because they weren't how we think of muskets, where you put everything down the barrel and load it that way. But there were several different parts that you had to work with. You had to load it, and there was a special thing called the powder pan where you put a little bit of powder there. But also, you had to keep a wick away from the powder pan in your hand and attach it when it's ready to fire. And then it comes through to what we know of the modern muzzle loaders to eventually what we have today as the modern firearms.
And they've kept their name, at least in English. The name refers to the oldest and the newest, because a firearm is a weapon that uses fire. And even in the English language, when you shoot a gun, it's called firing a gun, because you're letting the fire, you're igniting the fire. And even in Italian, they say, instead of shooting someone, they'll say dar fuoco, I gave him a fire. And or to take fire in some languages means to be fired at with the guns. And it's a very ancient tradition, and it developed very slowly. The first handheld pistols, you couldn't possibly shoot anyone. And but the firearm changed military tactics forever, because fighting used to be face to face with a sword, and you had to have a lot of heroism and virtue. Whereas now with a gun, you can shoot a person from even more than a mile away, if you're certain kinds of rifles.
Yeah.
And so there's like no virtue or courage involved whatsoever. And it has made possible mass warfare, because you can recruit the most villainous kind of people and fight a war as effectively as you choose the most virtuous. Whereas in the Middle Ages, most people don't realize, major battles were fought only with a few thousand on each side, even though you had kingdoms fighting against kingdom. I remember one campaign, I think it was the campaign of Otto in Italy. He brought down 1,400 cavalry with him, and he conquered all of Italy, because it was an age in which you had to be courageous to get in battle, and that limited warfare.
Mm-hmm.
The last century, we've seen hundreds of millions involved in warfare, because anyone with a gun can shoot anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what's that great phrase of the West, the equalizer? The gun is, with a gun, even the weakest person can defend themselves against the strongest. So,
yeah,
from the point of view, yeah,
God made us same. God made us different, but Samuel Colt made us equals.
Yes, this is a phrase from the Old West pointing out that if you had a Colt pistol, you could defend yourself against anyone. So from the point of view of self-defense, it's an excellent weapon, and even if it's used mostly as a deterrent. And in Christian ethics, we should always prefer to use weapons as deterrents. We only actually use them in the way they're designed to be used when it's absolutely necessary. To save someone's life, or to save our own life, or to deter the loss of life.
Yeah. Now, we need to also remember that these rifles, pistols, are tools. They don't do nothing. They just sit there. But it takes you to make them work. You must know the rights and wrongs of when and not when to use it. So when these liberals say, "Oh, the gun killed somebody, we gotta ban it," no, we gotta ban the criminal. People with the wrong mindset, the wrong conscience, wrong everything, is using the tool for evil.
We can see in the recent unrest in the United States, the left has no problem if their people are carrying the guns. And at the same time, they've been trying to break down people's morality and sense of even logic, capability of the thought. And they've been advocating violence, which would all lead to unjust use of force. And here I want to point out that the word violence is not an evil word. Violence only means the use of force beyond what is naturally occurring, okay? And as our Lord said, the heaven is only taken by the violent, in the sense of people who actually were willing to break their own wills to sin and repent and change their lives. And that requires a violence upon yourself, in the sense of you have to do something different than your fallen nature. So there is just violence and there's unjust violence. The media and all their propaganda try to make you think that violence is wrong, it's evil. But what they really mean is your violence to defend yourself from our enslaving of you, that's evil. That's what they really mean, because they have no qualms about using violence. More than 100 million people were killed in the last century by the left. And they had no qualms about using guns to do it. So let's not imagine that that's what it's about. But as home defense or personal defense, in some countries you have the right to bear arms, and one is the United States, and considered one of the more liberally interpreted rights. And because in natural law, everyone has the right to bear arms, and according to the natural law, no government can restrain you from your right to bear arms, because you have the right to self-defense. And a government that does that would be criminal, and those laws, at least in Catholic morals, have no obligation to keep them. I'm not telling you to violate the law. I'm just saying that in Catholic teaching, there is no obligation to observe a law that prevents you to have a weapon that can be reasonably used to defend yourself, your life, or the life of those under your care. But you need to follow the laws, because otherwise you can lose your other rights, and which might be more important, like if you have responsibility of others and you support them, if you were to be arrested even for minor infraction, they may not have a place to live or eat anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to balance that. So even though a law may not be morally obliging, sometimes pragmatically you have to observe it, only because the state would persecute you otherwise. And in many nations now around the world, there is no law and order, there's no constitution, it's absolute tyranny by the death cult pushing the coronavirus. And they're out to enslave all humanity. It's pretty obvious like that. And they have no qualms of uttering the most outrageous lies, and people are being arrested merely for disagreeing with the government. You know, now to disagree with the government is incitement to dissent, or incitement to, so you have to be very careful what you say and what you do. But in the United States, the response has been the biggest year of gun sales, I think, in US history. It's up 90% over last year. And hopefully those guns will never get used, okay?
Yeah.
Or that they are used, they're only used as a deterrent, you know? Because many people will not invade your home, attack you personally, if you just brandish a gun, which means to show that you have one. And so it's very important to have a gun, okay, lawfully. It's very effective. And many people don't, though, okay? And so here we're going to talk about it, so that if you've never, you can now become a bit better informed and have a bit more spunk and initiative to go to a gun store and begin the process of legally owning a firearm.
Yeah. To begin becoming an owner, you have to know your state laws, which are very different state to state. And in the show page, I link a website that has all the state laws and all the regulations. so you can know what they are for your state. But also link you the federal ATF form that you will have to fill out at any of your gun stores to make the purchase. And they've updated it, changed it a bit, and there's one section that you have to make with a proper mind and truthful. That
Okay. Yeah, well, won't get into that. You fill out the form, you follow its instructions. We're not going to tell you the advice. My only advice we'll give you is that if Biden wins the election, they probably will stop giving out gun permits as a way of preventing people of defending themselves. Because if the Democrats win the White House, they will probably start mass murder around the country of the political enemies, and they won't let you own a gun, and they'll use any attempt of you to get a gun as a way of targeting you. So I advise you to get one before the election legally.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to own a gun, AJ, I know someone like myself who's never owned a gun, I would never own a gun. It's against my rule, but the rule of St. Francis. But for most people, they have the right, and they are under no obligation not to. But you know, the word gun, if you go into a gun store, you're going to see hundreds of kinds of guns, and it's kind of like it's like coming from the Soviet Union to American supermarket, looking at the coffee aisle. There's so many brands of coffee, you can't figure out which one even to buy. So what's the first thing you have to think of? How do you come to make this decision to buy a specific gun? There's a lot of things you have to think of beforehand now.
Yeah. Well, if you're a new gun owner, person seeking to be the first gun, make your first gun purchase, I would talk to the gun store owner, and he or she is very knowledgeable. They would help you out, and they'll probably have some practice firearms there, which are just plastic, don't fire, just to test you which one fits in your hand. And it's just basically a toy training simulation pistol, which does nothing. It's just basically hard plastic, and just to see what fits in your hand, what fits comfortably. Now, in certain big cities, you have a gun store, and connected to it is also a gun range, where a gun owner will take a few samples of pistols for these new people. And okay, you're new. Let's see what you can handle. See what you're comfortable with. Yeah, test them out.
Does it make a difference whether you're left-handed or right-handed? Do they make guns for both kinds of people?
Yeah.
So that's not a problem. And if you're a man or a woman, does it make a difference what kind of gun you should be looking for?
Yeah. Some women can't handle the large recoil of what we call a magnum pistol, which shoots a very powerful round. And some can, so it depends how strong of grip they have.
Mm-hmm. And recoil is how much it pushes back when it fires?
Mm-hmm. Or how much it
turns up. So why do some people buy pistols rather than rifles, or is there a reason why you should buy a rifle rather than a pistol?
Well, many buy pistols for just home defense and don't ever think about the other side of owning a firearm, which is also to go hunt and get meat when it's certain type of hunting season, like deer, elk, or moose, or some other large game, and that way you can provide fresh meat for your family.
Mhm. So tell us something about the different kinds of guns someone might want to buy for personal defense.
Well, you have your either you can have your revolver, which will shoot 6 rounds,
And why is it called a revolver?
because the cylinder that holds the ammunition revolves when every time you pull the trigger, it turns.
Okay.
And the semi-automatic magazine fed, you pull it, 1 round comes out, and so if you want, and it depends on the type of gun you like, and for close self-defense, and also there's shotguns, different types. I've seen first time ever seeing a bolt action shotgun, where it's basically like a rifle with a bolt action in it, but it's a shotgun. So I don't know the purpose for that, but it was neat and interesting. But mostly you want either a pump shotgun where when you shoot, you pump the empty out and put the new one in, or you have a semi-auto where you just load it, pull the charging handle back, and you don't have to worry about ejecting any shells. It ejects after one pull the trigger. Or if you want something a little more oomph and kick and spray, you can get a double barrel shotgun, which will also be very good deterrent in home defense.
In the Midwest, what do most farmers have for self-defense? Pistols or shotguns?
Pistols, shotguns, and rifles.
They have all three. Now, what distinguishes a rifle from the shotgun? Is it because what?
Why the shotgun's called a shotgun? Because the shell of a shotgun is a plastic shell, has a wad inside of it, then it has shot, depending what type of a shot. For purposes like birdshot, it has tiny little BBs that fly and hit different few birds at once, or buckshot, which would take down a deer, but also a good home defense round, which would take out numerous bad guys at once with the spray. But then a rifle is just a cartridge filled with powder and one projectile.
And rifles generally have longer ranges.
Yeah.
So what has the shortest range? A pistol, a shotgun, or a rifle?
A pistol and a shotgun.
And what is more accurate of the three kind of guns, in your opinion?
I would say all three is pretty darn accurate. If you had a lot of training behind it.
What is easiest to use with the least training?
Rifle and shotgun.
Rifle, shot. So when deciding upon a pistol, is it important to know whether your state allows concealed carry or not? And what is concealed carry?
Yes. When deciding on a pistol is Right now, it's very important to know if you can conceal carry, which means conceal your carry in a holster, like underneath your shirt, and you have a special license in your in your billfold saying I am a concealed carry member, and it's also good to know what's the rules and everything. Let me get to it.
So concealed carry means basically you've hid the weapon on yourself and someone wouldn't recognize that you're carrying one.
Yeah.
And whereas open carry means it's in some kind of holster that's visible on the outside of your clothing.
Yep.
All right, concealed carry weapons.
Here goes our sensor, folks. Yeah, we lost brother Alexis for a bit. Now, I'll link to this website on the show page about U.S. Concealed Carry Association. It even we here at our family needs to get it. Okay.
Okay, I'm back.
Yep. I was just saying about what I have linked in the show page regarding concealed carry. That
Okay.
even though we have a constitutional carry state, which means we can carry openly without needing a card or anything, but we need to join the USCCA, which is the United States Concealed Carry Association. They provide you with all the legal cards and protection, even when you have to use a concealed carry permit for self-defense, either your store or your family. You be protected with their legal team when
So
like what Kyle Rittenhouse actually needs.
yeah. Now you're in Kansas, so you're talking about constitutional carry. What does the concept constitutional carry mean? What does that mean about a state and its laws on guns?
Yeah.
Does it mean you're recognized to have the right via the Constitution, and therefore they don't limit it?
Yeah, let me read the read the official term.
Okay.
In the United States, the term constitutional carry, also called permitless carry, unrestricted carry, refers to illegal carrying of a handgun, either openly or concealed, without a license or permit. The phrase not typically refers to an unrestricted carry of a long gun or a knife or other weapons. The scope and boy, the scope and applicability of constitutional carry may vary by state. The phrase constitutional carry reflects the view that the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution does not abide the restrictions on gun rights, including the right to carry or bear arms.
Mm-hmm.
So in Kansas, we have the constitutional carry of the handgun.
Only of the handgun, not of the shotgun?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Yeah, the big restriction many states had against concealed carry is that people would walk into banks and then pull out a gun, and the security guard wouldn't see them come in with it. Okay, and some states like Montana, I think, are kind of like constitutional carry, they don't have a limit, but they don't allow any convicted felon ever to carry certain kinds of weapons, or I think even own a gun, and that's true in many states too. So it makes a difference if your state allows concealed carry, and if you're going to acquire a permit to do that, to know that before you buy a pistol, because it's going to make a difference whether you're going to buy a pistol that you can conceal and a pistol on the outside. For example, I think wasn't a Derringer a concealed kind of thing carried by police or private eyes?
Yeah.
And I've heard cases that in the 19th century, here even in Italy, some priests and religious carried concealed pistols, just in the case they would be mugged at nighttime for the personal offense. And in some old movies, you'll see a lady in her purse, and she'll have a tiny pistol that's like this big, and that was basically as a more deterrent than an actual thing. And I think that's the kind of pistol that was used to assassinate President Lincoln, wasn't it? It was one of these concealed small gauge bullets that, which at close range can be deadly.
Yeah.
So, but is it important to know whether you're going to use a rifle to hunt or not before you buy a rifle? It makes a big difference.
Yeah. So
and
if
why
you want to go deer hunting, there are certain rifle rounds that you can only use legally on deer. So you would need to know which of these rounds can take down deer legally. Then go to your gun shop and do the searching, asking around, saying which one would be the best, blah, blah, blah. Then you go through the forums, and they'll help you out with the forums and tell you what to fill out where and all that stuff.
Why are only certain kinds of ammunition allowed to shoot deer? I've never heard that before.
I think it's mostly make sure it's an ethical kill, so it doesn't make the deer that you can take down the deer with one shot instead of making it run off and be hurt otherwise.
And do you use a different kind of ammunition when you're shooting at birds?
Yeah, I use bird shot. Some states are now banning lead bird shot, so you have to use metal bird shot or steel bird shot, like in California.
Avoid poisoning the environment. And what if you're hunting small animals? If your state permits it, do you use a different ammunition then?
Yeah, use what's called a 22 long rifle or one of the other small varmint rounds. They're called varmint rounds because of the small game.
I think in the old-fashioned days they called it what, a squirrel rifle? Now I heard that most of the men who defended the Alamo were experts by shooting squirrels because they came from states where squirrels hunting. If you're a regular hunter of squirrels, do you have to be a much better shot?
So those squirrels are quick and you only have about that size of a head target.
So in states where it's permitted to shoot squirrels, they'd be good target practice. Yeah. And if you were out hiking in a national park and you had your arms with you and a bear came after you, do you really need a certain kind of rifle to stop that bear, or can you shoot him with any rifle? Or if you hit him with a little pea shooter, you're just going to make it worse?
If you hit it with a pea shooter, you're going to make it angry and it probably kill you. But there is one pistol that'll take down a bear. Yeah. There's a pistol. I'm not going to say its name, but it's called the Alaskan. and it has a super short barrel and muzzle on it, and it's to take down bear when you are in bear country.
Okay, as like a last defense to your life. And the um, obviously, if you're using guns for wildlife, you have to know a lot about hunting rules. And where does one find that out? And do those differ by state too, and time of year?
Yeah, each time of year or season, there's different hunting uh, for different animals. Then there's different regulations, like certain parts of the year for certain game animals. You can call bow season, then muzzleloader season, which you use the traditional black powder weapons. Then you have youth season, where the youth can go out with their dad, and the dad just watches and make sure the youth knows what to do and can get their first hunt. But the youth must go through a hunter education course first to get their certificate and card saying they passed hunter education course. Then they can get their first hunting license. And let me tell you, it was a lot of information, but it was fun and well worth it. Now, gonna have some kids there that just want to see all the guns and mess around, but you gotta take it seriously because you can have those hunting accidents if you're not paying attention where your line of shot is and everything. So
The if you live in the countryside and you are confronted by a wolf or a coyote, do you need a certain kind of gun to defend yourself?
um yeah, you need like deer rifle how to drop the animal quick before it tries to attack you or cow or a horse or anything. So a deer rifle.
Mhm. And if it's a question of just deterring an animal's approach, whether the animal be semi-dangerous or very dangerous, is it always best to try a deterrent shot, that like a shot in the air, rather than shooting the animal on the first attempt?
Yeah, it depends how far away it is and how squirrely it's acting. But if
Mhm.
it's looking squirrely and notice how weird their eyes are looking and they have intent of doing harm, you don't deter it. You drop it.
So the closer it is, the more likely it is you should drop it, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
As a Franciscan, I point out that God created all living things, and you shouldn't kill wildlife without a reasonable necessity. Okay, don't shoot small little animals just because you like it. That is sadistic. Okay, and even the squirrels on your property are serving a purpose in the order of things of God. They eat all the nuts that fall, they clean up the ground, they eat lots of insects. And if you killed all the small animals on your property, you'd soon have a problem with insects, ants, and all kinds of pests and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but within a certain, so if you're going to shoot a game animal, it should be because you have an intent to hunt it, clean it,
Mm-hmm.
and take the meat home, not just to kill it and let it rot in the countryside. That's just not ethical.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help the other animals too, because a rotting animal in the countryside attracts all the worst kinds of predators. And how about buzzards? Are buzzards a problem in some parts of the country? And are they open? Is there open season on buzzards, or even buzzards protected?
That I don't know. Never seen anybody try to shoot one before.
Mm.
Let
And
me look it up.
okay.
So you,
And then I would imagine there's lots of birds that you can't shoot at all because they're protected or they're considered beneficial to the environment.
yeah. Well, I'll be.
I know that buzzards are one of the biggest eaters of snake and carrion in the countryside. So you might not like the look of a buzzard, but he's cleaning up the countryside and getting rid of all that diseased flesh.
Yeah.
And God made him to do that. He's kind of like the garbage collector. But can you hunt buzzards?
I don't know.
Okay, that's something like that. So before you decide to shoot an animal, find out what the laws are in your state, because it might be that that animal is actually very important, and your first reaction to a non-lethal animal shouldn't be to shoot it just because you have a gun. Don't take joys in shooting it. Matter of fact, most people learn to shoot not by shooting animals. They go to gun ranges and shoot at paper targets or clay
Mm-hmm.
targets, and that's true.
Yeah.
And when you go to a gun range, what do you expect to find? What is a gun range, and what do people do there? And how does one register or pay, or is it a membership? And what do you shoot at? And how often do you go? And why do you go?
Um. There is usually the city has a gun range or the gun store has a gun range. And from what I know from how things are in the big city, when I see the gun owners on Twitter talk about it, you either pay for a certain amount of time or you have a membership there and you go and shoot, and once your time limit's up, you clean your weapon and go back home. But
So they
yeah,
so
uh,
they're going to charge you on an hourly rate.
uh, I guess so. But out here, if you live on a farm, you can shoot anytime you want.
Yeah. In many states, I would advise you, you cannot shoot the gun on your property because the properties are so small and next to other houses. So look it up. Just because you own the house or the property doesn't mean you can fire a weapon on the property. And also be aware that if you fire a gun, the bullet, if you're doing a rifle especially, can travel a lot farther than you think. It could go, especially if you fire in the air. Like you see in the Mideast, people firing guns in the air. Some people die from that because the bullet goes way up in the sky and several miles later falls down on some innocent person and goes right into them. So now, but if someone was to get interested in hunting and you get a firearm to do hunting, should he really take a course first on how to hunt and how to skin an animal and all that?
Yeah, that'd be helpful and teach them the rules and regulations and what to do, what not to do. I and when I took that hunter education safety course, I also saw adults there. So yeah, you can take that same course in whatever state you live in, and then and you'll get a little booklet on everything that you need to know.
Now, in actually choosing a gun, I mean, how expensive are guns? Are pistols more expensive than shotguns or rifles? And what is the best quality companies out there to look at? Or
Mm. Some pistols, rifles, shotguns are seems like they were way expensive. Um, some pistol companies make beautiful pistols, like they're almost artwork pieces, and they'll run about $1,000 to $1,200. And same, and Italian shotguns are also expensive, and certain types of rifles are also way expensive. But there's a list on the actual companies I like and trust and look at when I go to the gun store, and sometimes your local gun store will have the new stuff, or will have some good used prices on weapons that are very reasonable and of the same good manufacturers. So I suggest you look at our show page to see what uh, people I have selected that I like and trust, because I don't want to go, don't want to get kicked off of YouTube.
Okay, so now something about is there a different kind of quality of gun, and what makes a gun to be better quality? Is its material, its craftsmanship, its durability, its accuracy?
Yeah, some use high grade polymer, which is a plastic used to make firearms, and then some use good quality metal or steel, iron, and some use brass and amazing, beautiful wood pieces that go onto the weapon itself. So it depends if you want a polymer type plastic pistol, or if you want something made with brass or wood or metal. And that'll be why the different prices, because of the different qualities and the types of material used to create the firearm.
Now, a firearm that's made entirely of high quality metal, if your house should burn down, will that firearm survive, or will it be ruined?
There is one I know of that would survive pretty much anything, and it's Russian made and very, very tough.
And it's made all of steel?
Yeah.
For price range, so you say the high range of a pistol might be 1,200. What is a normal expected, if you go into a store to buy a pistol that you're going to be wearing on the outside for open carry, what is the kind of price you should expect to buy for like a beginner's pistol?
Anywhere between $200 to $400, plus whatever.
And how
state
about
tax
like a beginner?
Yeah, plus would be all the state tax and rifles. Well, about $400 to $800 be about there
for the
rifle.
For the rifle. How about for a shotgun?
Probably about that. As for the rifle, maybe a little higher, because they seem to take a little more design into the woodwork on the shotguns.
Now, you hear from the movies that guns have calibers and different kinds of ammunition. Why is this the case, and does it make a difference what kind of ammunition your weapon uses?
Yes, the guns, different guns have different types of ammunition. From the smallest, it can go from the smallest varmint rounds to, let's say, anti-personnel rounds. I mean, huge. Think I get in trouble if I show the size?
Yeah, no, let's not show the size, because not all of those things are actually legal in the States. But so each gun uses only one kind of ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
And if one was to buy, wanted to buy a pistol and a rifle, is it possible to buy a pistol and a rifle who both use the same ammunition?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's important to note that if you're buying a variety of weapons. And is ammunition expensive nowadays?
Very, very hard to find.
Can you give an example from your experience?
We just went into the gun store on my birthday to get a Russian rifle, and the guy only had like 5 boxes of the ammo in, and if you were going in there for the the armor light rifle, which is what they call the AR-15, the ammo for that is completely sold out. That is why, because everyone is buying that semi-automatic rifle with the 30-round magazines if they're not in California, because you cannot buy 30-round magazines in California, even though I think the appeals court appealed the decision, but I don't think it's going to last. So,
So since everyone's buying the gun they hear about in the news, that one's run down.
And you can't buy the 9mm handgun ammo and certain other ammunition is hard to come by. One, because of the COVID thing, it shut everything down, and the factories are still in the liberal states, still haven't been able to get back up to running full speed because of the dang governor's restrictions on non-essential employees. So it takes the people who make the ammo to either make it ready to go for your firearm or make the stuff ready so you can reload it legally at home. And that is also hard to come by too.
Okay, so it's important to buy a gun for which there's a plentiful supply of ammunition, otherwise there's no point.
Yeah.
Now, are the same rules that apply to owning a gun apply to other weapons like bow and arrows and crossbows and knives or throwing knives? As far as you know?
I would check with your laws on that, because as far as I know, here you could walk into Walmart and buy a crossbow or normal bow and arrow. They even sell the bow and arrow kit, so you buy and the set has a bow and 3 arrows. You buy that for $50 at Walmart in the sporting goods store here, and you're good to go. But different states will probably have different rules and restrictions and everything. So I check with your rules and regulations of your state, because I'm sure there's laws and stuff, and you also need to know the laws on how and when to bow hunt and everything as well.
Mm-hmm. And I would add that your state may also have laws about where you cannot bring your gun. There might be general laws saying you can carry, but then there might be specific laws saying you can't, for example, bring it into a bank or a restaurant or a theater or a church. So you need to look into those too, because you just can't carry it around with you all the day wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
And in some states, you can't even leave it in a car. And so you need to look into all that.
Yeah.
And something about basic gun safety. What's some basic rules of gun safety? We're not giving strict advice here, we're just giving you an idea that there is a thing called gun safety, and you should look into this too.
Yeah. Now, if you have young kids around you are nosy and like to, or like to look around and it's like, ooh, what's this? What's this? So you got young kids, you need to keep the firearms out of their reach and teach them that this is not a toy, that this is not to be played with, that this is for our defense, and also for, if it's a rifle, and it's also for hunting or target shooting. Now,
And is it a good thing to have a locked? Is it a good thing to have a locked gun cabinet at home?
yeah, either a locked one or a specialized one where it only opens up for your hand or your wife's hand, where you just slide your hand underneath it and it opens up. So it's quick grab when you need it in case of emergencies. So, because sometimes you're fiddling with the lock and seconds matter. Like
Now, is the basic rule for gun? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, like I was saying, in like these big cities where you got these rioters coming up to your house and you don't know if they're going to be breaking into your house and throwing you out into the street, and you don't want to fiddle with a key or try to remember the combination under pressure. So there's new specialized safes out there that'll recognize the hand of your husband or your wife. You just put it underneath the thing that recognizes your hand, and it'll open right up. You grab the pistol, and you grab the magazine, which is separate, but next to it, separate. Then good to go.
Now, is the basic rule for gun safety is never point a gun at another human being?
Yes.
And always to keep the safety on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you also got to remember the safety is just a tool that will fail. So even though your safety is on, it may also fail. So you got to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there to give you a sense of protection.
Mm-hmm. Now, from your experience living in the Midwest, do most people keep their firearms loaded, or do they keep them unloaded when they're storing them at home?
Here at home and here in with our neighbors, the magazine is in the pistol, but there's nothing in the chamber. It's just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
So
for safety's sake.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can pull the trigger all you want. There's nothing in there. It's just sitting in there.
So gun safety is very important, and you'll probably learn that in your gun safety course when you take in your state, but this is something that if you have a gun in your house, everyone should know something about gun safety, okay? Because even though you, the father or mother, might be trained and licensed to own a weapon, any one of your children might at some time, out of fear of your life or your husband's life or your wife's life, presume to pick up the weapon and attempt to use it, okay, even though they're not trained. So everyone needs to know gun safety and know what to do in an emergency and what the protocols are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The greatest tragedy you could possibly have is a child in your family using it as a game and getting shot or showing it to a friend. And if you own guns and keep them at home, you must exercise an extra special care over who your children make friends with and who they're allowed to bring over. Because a bad friend could induce a very good, honest, upright child to do things that he would never expect him to do, especially if he knows there's a gun in the house. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of the other paraphernalia it's good to own with a gun?
Let's see. If you're going to be a gun owner and you want to make sure you have plenty of ammo on hand, I would also suggest getting books on reloading. And also, if there are any manuals out there on your type of weapons you have, so you know about them, how to work on them, fix them if they need to be fixed, and and also we also get the NRA Rifleman magazine, and just to keep learning about what's going on with them and you see what's the news is and I would say also on for the child to know what to do when if that horrible situation comes like it did with that was that 12 or 14-year-old boy in Alabama who was home alone and 3 burglars broke in and he had to pick up his mom's pistol to protect himself in the house. Um, if you have a grandparent who was in the Second World War and was and knew and also grew up with weapons and properly trained his son, you're be be my dad if since my grandpa who also helped me learn on about firearm safety. It was through him, my dad, my uncle. Have your family members who are good on these things. Teach your kids, boys and girls, at a young age to properly know how to what a firearm is. Start them off early with a BB or pellet rifle. Teach them all the safety things about where to aim, what to do, then work them way up so they can do like that 14-year-old boy did in Alabama if he has to. Only if he has to. Because I'm sure that mom did exactly that because he knew exactly what to do. And that is one thing you never want to do.
Without necessity, without absolute necessity. So, is there other aspects of gun ownership you'd like to talk about, AJ, or do you think you need to talk to the audience about?
Um, Not probably what YouTube will allow.
How about cleaning your gun, maintaining it? Does it take a lot of work?
A lot of work. Not if they're always kept up, and after a few hundred shots through it, you swab it and put the patches through it and clean it out. But like if you buy a used rifle from, let's say, World War II, and you get it inspected at the gun store, and it's like, it needs to get a cleaning. Well, it'll take a bit to get it cleaned so it'll be usable again, because you never know how long it's sat after, World War II, and how long it sat afterwards. So it depends if it's fairly always kept very clean. It only takes about 20 to 30 minutes to clean it. But if it's something older and needs a good cleaning, it will take about maybe an hour or so. So you get all the gunk and mess out of there.
And when you say clean, do you mean the whole gun or just the barrel?
Mostly the barrel. There's a special cleaning rod with a brush on it. You put the special cleaning lube on it, and you put it down the bore or the barrel, and you push it, and with the brushes on it, while you're pushing, it'll scrub the thing clean. Then you put the patches on it, which will then help scrub and collect all the other stuff that the brush loosened up, and that's about where it takes the longest, because you want to try to get a nice clean patch when you're done. So all the nasty gunks cleaned out, and once you get the last patch through that shows pretty clean, you're done.
And once you clean a gun, about how frequently do you need to clean it? Every 100 shots?
I mean, if you're using good ammo that's not corrosive, which doesn't gunk up the barrel, should be good for about 5 to 1,000 shots, and be good to clean it around then. And depending what type of climate, also you want to take an oil rag and wipe it down and keep the stock nice and oiled, and so it doesn't dry out and turn brittle or anything.
A good practical question. I don't think I hear anything. Where is the best place in your house to store your guns? And does it make a difference whether the gun is hunting or for personal defense? In your opinion?
If it's hunting and also some of the personal defense items, weapons, are stored in a special room that is just for the guns and reloading. So, but if it's, quick self-defense pistols, they're in the nightstand, or in the nightstand.
By your bed, you mean?
Yep.
Should you ever keep guns in your front room near the front door, or is that imprudent?
It depends if you have any kids come over. If you don't have kids come over, and everyone knows about gun safety, and they know about your house, and they don't mind, it's no big deal. But I'd say be careful.
Now, just a personal question. You've lived out in Western Kansas your whole life, and you're on a ranch, your family's farmers and stuff. How often do you actually use a rifle, for example, against coyotes or buzzards or vermin events? Is it
Mm.
like you're using a gun every day, or use it once a week or once a month?
Oh, let's see. Used to be pretty frequent during when I was in middle school and high school because the coyotes were numerous and often super close by, and you call people up and like, hey, we need some extra people over here, and we all get into our trucks and go off into the night and go after the coyotes and make sure the cows are protected. I haven't had to do that recently, except that one time we were talking and I saw my dad come out with a rifle and he's like, get a coyote nearby, going after him. So that's about been a few 10, not 10 or so years or maybe more. So not often.
Not often. Okay. Okay, so if you've never owned a gun, maybe now you know something a bit more about it. You'll have a bit more courage to go over to the gun store and take a look. Like everything else, is buying a gun like a car? You shouldn't buy it the first time you walk into the store. You should think about it, look at things, shop
Think,
around.
yeah, think about it, study it, have an idea of what you're thinking about, and also ask questions to the gun store owner. They will help you out. And if you live in a city where you can, try it out, they'll let you try it out. But if you don't have a gun store like that, um, they'll still try to help you out and let you test it out. If test to see how hard the actions are and see if you can work them and see what feels comfortable. And when you're ready, they'll help you out with the paperwork that you have to file.
Mhm. Okay. So I hope if you the listeners have found this program informative. Um, this is, I think, the first program we've ever done on guns, and this is the first one, obviously, on gun ownership. And this is just to orientate you, okay, and help you understand, if you know nothing about guns, what it's about and how, what you need, just some of the basic concepts, what you need to inform yourself. You don't take this program as the only thing you know. Take it as a call to learn a lot more before you buy a gun and as you own and keep owning weapons.
Yeah, I couldn't be super direct, super open because of the rules and guidelines set by YouTube. So that's why I was kind of moving around on answering certain things and not answering certain things because YouTube set the
Yeah.
rules on this. So I had to duck and dodge or do my best here, folks. So, and please check out all the links in the show page. It'll help you and and everything else. And tomorrow's show, we're gonna finally take up the topic someone asked us a few months ago to tackle: the Great Monarch, real or fake? Yeah, for a teaser, I want to say these people are getting insane. They One of their so-called prophecies says, and since they know I'm related to Charlemagne, they asked, "Are you an orphan?" And I was like, "You joking, right? You think
Are
my
you
parents
orphan?
are dead?" No,
Why does the great monarch has to be an orphan?
I guess so.
Okay, so we'll discuss all this,
Yeah.
all the legends, myths, origins, history, monarchism versus fake monarchism, and this has a good question about manliness versus just appearing to be,
Hmm.
a man.
Yeah. I had to put that teaser out because it was like, that was some of the rudest questions I ever got. Yeah, yeah. I think it's then the next hard hitting one we'll take on is to expose the truth about their love affair about Garbadanda or whatever.
Garabanda, yeah. So Monday we'll do a show on terrorism, and then on Tuesday we'll talk about Christian politics.
Yeah.
And next week's coming up, we're going to do Doc Holiday.
Yeah, at least probably his early life because that has a lot of history in it.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about his ancestry, his family, where they came from, and how the politics of the South changed them forever.
And his Catholic relatives
Mm-hmm.
that had victory in the end.
Yep. So this is Order Militaris Radio TV signing off. Day is full.
Day is full.